What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-host Kyle. And today we continue our coverage of Apple TV Plus's Murderbot. Today we're covering season 1, episode 8, titled "Foreign Object." Kyle, we're here. Unfortunately, we don't have Luke, but we're here, me and you. Season 1, episode 8. What do you do? Go, Kyle. What do you think of this episode? We got a quick 20 minutes, like we always do. I feel like this is going to be a quick episode, but we do have a lot to talk about for two big buckets. So how do you want to start?
Yeah, again, it's so weird when the episode ends and it's always just like, I wish they were even like 10 minutes longer
Yeah, I know.
sometimes, and it's the perfect cliffhanger of I have a plan. And then it's classic Murderbot style. It's funny. It has the comedic element of he has to say it again. And I think that we learned some interesting things here, obviously about Gray Chris and, what is this mysterious entity that's been roaming around. We don't really have all the answers, but maybe we have a face and a name potentially at this point. And then we do get the interesting Murderbot reveal. We had talked about it, I believe, over several episodes of if they ever find out what his name is,
Yes.
being Murderbot. And obviously that's right at the heart of what their issue is with him
Yes.
as a jailbroken sec unit. So it's nice that like all of these cards are really out on the table now.
Agreed.
And it feels like we're really heading into two episodes where they like things absolutely have to happen in these last two episodes.
Right.
And it's feeling like after this season, and we kind of been talking about this too, of we're going to be able to look back on this season and be like, okay, that was a journey that actually, like, looking back on it, I enjoyed it.
Yes, agreed.
That's how I feel in the moment.
Yeah, I agree. Broken record here where it's just tough with the 20-minute episodes. The full product is going to be a good product. I can already tell. The binge is going to be fun. It is definitely a binge show. I thought this episode was good. I really liked it just because it did add some information that we needed. This is the first episode in a little bit where it really pushed us forward into the storyline, and now we have some answers, like you had said. Gray Chris, and also the callback to Murderbot's deleted / forgotten memory, however we want to take it, and we'll get into it. But first, of course, they need to do a little Sanctuary Moon, and this one is, of course, pretty meta. Obviously, talking about Navbot and everything that goes on with it, and how Agent Coulson thinks that it's a robot who they fully control, and he's the big dog. He controls this thing. And Navbot says, "You stole everything from me. You stole John Cho from me. You stole love from me. And I'm going to take your ass out." And hilariously, it's just so funny. Murderbot just watching the episode like, oh, damn, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting Navbot to take them all out. But of course, the meta here is how everybody sees Murderbot and if it can be trusted. And that progresses big time in this episode.
Yeah, it's interesting that we get a really extended scene. This might be one of the longest Sanctuary Moon scenes that we've had. And as I'm watching it, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, like, is there actually a lesson here, or is this just supposed to be kind of funny? And now looking back over the whole episode, it feels like it's probably a direct commentary on the Murderbot controversy of what Gura sees. We talked a little bit in our, let's loosely call it, a pre-production meeting of like what actually is the memory, when did it happen? And then Murderbot even says himself, like, he's not certain the context of it. Like, did he actually kill the 57 miners? Was he told to do it? Is it just a memory that was implanted? And it seemed like this Sanctuary Moon scene was kind of like pointing maybe the arrow towards he was directed maybe to do so and then was reconditioned in the aftermath of it. But then we talked before this too of kind of at trying to avoid sounding stupid of how could he possibly have busted the governor module, killed the miners, been reconditioned, and then still having a busted governor module? That timeline doesn't necessarily mesh. So either people maybe can help us out, or maybe the show is still, I mean, I think 100% the show is still keeping some cards close to the chest, and we'll find out more about what that memory actually means. Because there's no way that Murderbot sticks around the squad and Gura doesn't, continue to investigate,
Probe.
continue to
Yeah.
harp on that point.
Yeah, and everyone listening, hit us up, bingetowntv.com/Discord, Spotify comments, be our third podcast host because Luke's not here and maybe he would have had the answers for us. But yeah, talking it out, there's two scenarios here, and I can see either one, and that's the joke. Me and Kyle, and I specifically said it to Kyle, I was like, I don't want to sound like an idiot on the podcast, but when it comes to Murderbot being sold, again, for lack of a better term, to run security for these missions, maybe they are multiple mining missions, and he was on a mining mission in the pilot, and he says, I finally broke the governor module, and I can now do whatever I want, and I can now name myself, and I'm going to name myself Murderbot. Does that mean that this happened beforehand and he was reconditioned and then he was on his mission there where he finally broke the governor module? Because again, like you said, my big problem here is he says in the moment, all right, I broke it. This dude right in front of me was a total ass. He was holding his hand up to the flame because he just could, right?
Mm-hmm.
He breaks the governor module and it's time. He can do whatever he wants. And in the moment, could he have just destroyed everybody? And that's that moment that we're seeing, of course. But then, like I said, I just don't see how he goes back to the company. They look into it. They decide to rewrite his memory, delete his memory, and then they don't realize that he broke the governor module. So maybe it was beforehand, and that's where Murderbot came in, and that's why he thought to call himself Murderbot, just because all he does is murder, and it was, that's where he went with that. But again, everyone, hit us up. Tell us if we're idiots.
Yeah, the one thing I'm thinking of is maybe that scene. I don't remember the exact episode number. I'm going to shoot a shot out there and say it was 4, where we get the opening of them on the assembly line with the company.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe was that scene kind of telling us that this reconditioning, refurbishing process as well? I mean, they're kind of showing us the actual assembly, but maybe the hint is there is that like the quality control really isn't there. The company is more than willing to cut corners. It's all kind of about hitting the quotas. They just want to make money off of the bots and the expeditions and things like that. So they see the sec unit that had done this thing. And they even said in this episode, now that I'm also talking about this, that massacres are terrible for business and like insurance and things like that. So they just said, fuck it, we'll take the bot, refurbish it. And then we know that the people that do the refurbishing are probably completely overworked and not paid well, indentured servants. And
Yep.
they don't really care at all what the results are. They just want to be able to check the box that it has been quote unquote refurbished. So they didn't actually even know that Murderbot had broken its governor module.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in that same exact episode, they do say rogue sec units are not something that is a major anomaly. It is something that happens kind of often. So maybe they just don't really look into it as much as we're thinking. So again, guys, hit us up. Let us know what you think. But that is kind of a big deal. So if we're getting this wrong, we would definitely like to know. But it is tough because it's scenarios where it just seems very similar because recalling the initial pilot, the setting seems very similar, multiple people, mining mission, etc. But this is more of an instant reaction for me and Kyle due to the screeners and everything like that. So we didn't have too much time to go back and do some research and look into it. So for the last time, definitely hit us up. But
I'm actually feeling more and more confident maybe that's what it is. And maybe it's because it feels like the show is really having this level of social commentary on, I mean, let's just say capitalism in general. I mean, that's the way that I was interpreting, especially that assembly line scene. It's so much of the show has dropped these hints about, the indentured servitude. And then we have this Preservation Alliance is kind of the main people that we focus, and they are coming at it from this, they're completely gone against everything that the company stands for. And I could see that it's all becoming this kind of commentary on things like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And while we're on the topic, we can quickly talk about this scenario with Gura, aka Gugu. I like that. Roddy, the goat. So we have Gura, and he is down for the count. We'll talk about Gray Chris in a little bit, but he needs the med bay. They're in the med bay, and hilariously, Murderbot. I did first of all, I did really like the scene where Gura's like, "No pain meds. This is how it started. I'm not doing it. No pain meds." So in 2 episodes, they really gave us some really good
Mhm.
background information and character development for Gura. So Murderbot jumps in, and apparently, him and Gura came up with the idea at the exact same time, as Murderbot said. And Murderbot was going to hardwire himself into Gura and basically turn off his pain sensory so that he doesn't feel this pretty crazy operation happening on his knee. And because of that, they have a connection. And Murderbot gets a little curious. And it's kind of like his television shows, right? He's like, I got something to watch. Let me watch it while they're doing this surgery. And he sees an actual human's TV, inner TV, right?
Yeah.
Everything is emotions that he's not used to, and he calls it like goo or something. It's basically just jumbled, and it's actually freaking like not
Mhm.
processing code, etc. And we get more confirmation, if we didn't already need it, that Gura loves Mensa, and he basically does have a moment with her where he says like, why can't you love me? I love you, etc. And Murderbot starts repeating it, and everyone's a little freaked out. But then in that moment, as soon as they finish the surgery, Gura gets the jump on Murderbot, which kind of pissed me off a little bit. But Gura gets him, and he jumps in, and that's where we saw this scene, for lack of a better term, where Gura's finally in there, and he's noticing, and he's seeing this flashback, memory, etc. And he knows his name. He calls himself Murderbot, which shit totally hits the fan there.
Yeah, that seemed like really, I almost want to say the most back against the wall, almost potentially, that we've seen Murderbot
Oh yeah,
at any point. It was not loving the fact that Murderbot was about to say this. It immediately leaves as well in the aftermath of it, doesn't want to deal with the kind of awkwardness that's simmering around in the room. And I thought the way that it all happened felt like a natural progression. You know,
agreed.
if the link and the information flow, let's say, can go one way from Gura to Murderbot, lends itself to believe that it could go from Murderbot to Gura. Gura also has been chomping at the bit to do something like
Yeah,
this, or do it again rather, because Murderbot even talks about it, that it happened in the past too. So again, I think we're all at this point just like really wanting to get answers for the plot to progress, for all these things.
right.
So for me, I thought that this whole scene worked completely. And again, it's going to be Gura potentially having to bite his tongue as we move forward in these last 2 episodes. If it seems like the ending, they're kind of maybe going to allow Sec Unit at a further distance than before, but still to be kind of, let's say, in the squad, in the team, and
Yeah,
defending them.
yeah,
So
yeah. And props to Alexander Skarsgård, because this was amazing acting, where he is a robot. He's a sec
yeah,
unit who is very non-emotional, very straightforward, usually straight-faced. But while this is all happening, no, 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 stop. He's freaking out. He's delusional. You could see Sec Unit Murderbot having this very, very, for lack of a better term, again, emotional situation. And he does say later, like, I had to calm myself down. He does say in past episodes that he has anxiety, but I love this acting right here, because he was very, very uncomfortable. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't tell him what I'm called. It's bullshit. Like, it's delusional. You're not telling the truth. And then I want to talk about what you said, Kyle, where he's saying they may have implanted it. I don't know what this is. They may have told me to do it. Maybe I did do it. Maybe I did go rogue. He's
yeah,
basically giving everything there. And I'm taking it at face value, because I really don't see Murderbot as someone who feels to need the need to lie,
Yeah,
because you
I
could.
guess so.
I mean, he was very uncomfortable, and he obviously
Yeah.
doesn't seem to want them to know the truth. And he, not that he cares what their opinions are. Maybe that's obviously the character progression and the character development. But he says like maybe it was implanted. I mean, is it the truth that he's saying? Maybe this, maybe that, or does he know the truth and he's not telling them and he's trying to get around it or lie around it?
I feel like the past scenes we've had of him having this memory has given us the perspective that he also doesn't really know a ton about it. He
Agreed.
just knows that it's there.
Yes, right.
So
I
it
agree.
also maybe felt maybe it's a human reaction too from him,
Yeah. Hmm.
of all of this bargaining, this, I wouldn't say delusion, but kind of this trying to provide all of this context in a way to address the way that he thinks everyone in the room is going to react to it.
Right.
That feels slightly human. I mean, I almost maybe even say that to set myself up for a potentially final point of when he leaves, or I'm sorry, when it leaves and it's thinking about next steps and the TV shows and all of this stuff. And I almost am shocked that none of us have said this over this season, but it getting to a point where it's like, I can write my own story.
Right.
It loves television shows and these stories, and just that line felt so perfect
Hmm.
of I
Agreed.
can write my own story. And that's interesting. And that's, I think for me personally, that's the mindset I want it to be. And I wanted to think more of the possibilities, because I think I especially have been kind of harping on this. I It can't just want to watch TV forever and fuck off.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
because also that's not a TV show for us
Yes.
to
Right.
watch. Like we
Correct.
can't
Correct.
watch that and enjoy that continually. So I'm a little bit, I think, not confused isn't the right word, but of before it says that, it says like it's talking almost about betraying the
Yeah.
team.
Hmm.
And that was
He's using
interesting.
them.
And then it's like I can write my own story, and then it pops back and it's I have a plan. And
Yeah.
is
I
that plan just to set them up? And that's the way or I'm sorry, it's gonna write its story. I mean, again, that's still
that
interesting too. And that's something that we're gonna have to find out, let's say, in these last two episodes.
that's how I'm taking it. And I was just gonna say it's very interesting that writing the story, it's very soap opera-ish
Mhm.
that the sec unit, the Murderbot, the story that it wants to tell is some dramatized Murderbot that betrays the unit,
Yeah.
the group, and gets away. And I think that's going to be the plan. I really do. And of course, by the end of the season, we have 2 episodes left. Maybe there's a change of heart, and Murderbot decides towards the end of the finale that it really does enjoy these people and it wants to stick with them, and the plan will end up changing. But yeah, I'm taking it right now. Like, betrayal's right there, and we'll see. And and the other thing too is we talked about this before. Murderbot, if I'm Murderbot, there's plenty of times just trying to be within that character. There's plenty of times when Murderbot's inner the inner dialogue talks about how, like, come on, I'm helping you. I'm saving you. You guys don't know what the hell is going on. Couple times it's outwardly said that. Specifically with this with Gura, I'd be like, dude, I just hardwired myself into you. I'm not going to tell the whole group that the reason why I did it was because it's a TV show and I want to get into Gura's mind and blah, blah, blah. But you don't have to say that. But you can say, yo, whether you thought of it or I thought of it or we thought of it at the same time, I decided I'm going to hardwire myself into you so that you don't feel pain and you can get through this procedure because you didn't want to go through pain meds. And now you're basically being like, I'm a piece of shit. And you're saying I'm betraying you guys. There's been plenty of times, plenty of scenarios where Gura, not necessarily many of the others, but Gura specifically, and then a little bit when they all were like disgusted by him with the Labibi thing, where it could have totally been like, I'm going to betray you guys. I'm out. You don't care. Fine.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's been working so hard almost from its own perspective to maybe not align, let's say, with the potential biases that could be out there against sec units. You know, what they are thinking the squad, I mean, naturally in the wake of the little baby stuff, but still initially a lot of them of it could fly off the handle and kill us.
Yeah.
And it has demonstrated in its actions and also like you're saying in the inner dialogue of that it doesn't actually really have a desire to do that. It is trying to protect them. I mean, the classic example is shooting itself when it had the combat override module
Yeah.
going on. So it has taken a lot of, you could say, almost unnatural steps, or maybe
And
it's
you do
more
have
natural to the code and the programming of protection, but unnatural in the
right.
sense that it actually has the ability to do whatever it wants, and it's still choosing to act like it kind of would if it didn't have a choice.
Yeah, there has really been no scenario where Murderbot has given them the inkling that it would betray them. The only thing it has done was scare them with murder, with Labibi and scenarios like that. And then let them know that its name is
Yeah,
Murderbot. Well,
love that
Murderbot
concept.
didn't let them know that, but yeah.
Scaring them with murder. That's all it did. It just scared
Scaring them
them with
with murder. That's the only thing it's done.
just
The
a little
only
murder.
thing. Just a little murder. And it outwardly has said multiple times too, like if I wanted to kill you,
Yeah.
I would have killed you by now. There's times Mensa, Roddy, a few of the other characters, even in this scenario, when Murderbot's name is revealed, that they're like, we need it. It has protected us. It is part of the crew. They're not all, again, we've talked about it a million times, the different layers
Yeah.
of who is more loyal to Murderbot and who is more maybe empathetic to Murderbot and treats it like a human and a person,
Yeah.
and you have, yeah, go ahead.
No, and I think that as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking back on the episode. It does feel like the show is moving towards, I don't even know what the right word is for. I don't want to say the nexus point, but kind of this point of no return of like whatever ends up happening via the plan, via whatever engagement happens with Gray Chris, people are like, it'll be the final decision of if he's in the squad or not, because
Right.
we've been vacillating. It feels like we're way on the outs at this point. We'll see what happens, but it seems like that kind of story itself will be complete at the end of this season, and we'll kind of know
Agreed.
where we stand at the end of it. Because we had been talking, I think, early on into the middle-ish of we hope that these characters stick around,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it seems like there's a lot of bridge mending, let's say, that has to happen in these last two episodes for that to be a reality.
They really need a purpose for them all to stick together. They need a reason for them in their own minds to forgive Murderbot, maybe, if that's how you
Yeah.
want to say it. You need Murderbot to decide itself that it wants to actually stick with them. There is a lot that needs to happen, but I think that's the perfect formula for how you want to have a quote unquote everybody drink happy ending to this season. I do think that we will hit that. And I do hope that we get these characters moving forward, at least some of them. I can't imagine that the way that lay them out for us this season, that you don't give us them more of them this season 2, 3, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
And it
hoping
seems
that
like there's some precedence there for forgiveness too, it seems. We got Gura's backstory. It's not squeaky clean. I don't think it's as acutely evil, let's say, as murdering 57 people, but also we don't have any of the context and we don't know actually if that was a free will decision or not. But I'm still, I think, on the train that it's going to be the squad of them in after this season. Although, like, I mean, like we've said, the last couple episodes have made that kind of hard. But I
yeah.
would be shocked if we walk away from this season and and it's not part of the gang.
And they've set this up perfectly with the scenes where you say something nice and then something that hurts.
Mm,
And Gura didn't want to say it, and then he basically does say it to Mensa on this side. They've also said we can talk this out. Murderbot never wants to talk this out.
hmm.
Maybe at some point by the end of the season, it does finally talk it out. And I agree. I'm gonna go with, especially after Sanctuary Moon's intro, that this is something that Murderbot was forced to do, and that is obviously something that they can forgive it for. Murderbot itself says, "Was it a combat override? Was it something that was forced on me?"
Yeah.
There's
And
plenty of
then
scenarios here.
the act of writing its own story is not taking the route that the Navbot took
Right.
and kind of turning on the new crew, even though it was the old crew. I mean, I guess it's hard to tell whether the is the crew of the ship and Agent Coulson, is that supposed to be the corporation in this, let's say,
Right,
metaphor
because
or
Coulson's the
not?
one who forced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
guess we'll find
Well,
out.
yeah, and I mean, the funny thing about it is Navbot in Sanctuary Moon was acting more human, feeling feelings, acting like a person in love with John
Mm,
Cho's character, and it was Agent Coulson. I don't believe it was the rest of the crew. I believe it was just Agent Coulson's character that. And for anybody who doesn't know Agent Coulson's character, Clark Gregg, I'm talking about Agents of Shield, the Avengers, etc.
yeah.
But it seems like that's obviously the character that forced the Navbot to kill John Cho and delete the
Yep.
memory and test the memory, and that would, to me, signify the company, the corporation, etc.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can see it. I can see it, and we obviously have something else to talk about, and that's great, Chris. And I think it's leaning in a way that we thought it would, where the anomalies, the big deal, this thing that the crew found in the early episodes,
Mhm.
apparently hasn't been found yet by Gray Chris, and the other crew that they killed off found Gray Chris and was in their way, but they're going to need some answers from our crew. And they want to have a little bit of a ceasefire here. They want to have a little bit of a truce. They want to meet up and see what they can get out of them. The whole crew is very, very nervous about this. They obviously believe that they'll get the answers, torture the answers out of them, and then kill them all. They believe they need Murderbots. Some of them do, some of them don't. They need protection. What are they going to do? Mensa says, I'm going to go talk to them. The others say, should we run? No, they'll chase us. There's a lot going on here. But again, another mining company. We're talking about these mining crews, these mining expeditions. Murderbot killed 57 miners, etc. So that's why it seems like it's a thing that is very common. And that's maybe part of the confusion too. But we have this scenario where they're going to meet with Gray Chris, I
Yeah.
guess. Maybe Mensa will, and then we'll figure out where we're going to go from there. And obviously, they have to be more villainous than just, hey, we're going to meet and talk this out.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked, I think, last episode too, when they gave us that the company transport ship won't be here for a month. And I
Yeah,
think we all
right.
kind of were like, okay, I don't think the next, like, it's going to be a month over these 3 episodes because it's only
Right.
been 36 hours for the
Yeah,
rest,
exactly.
for the season up until this point. So it feels quite natural that it would actually lead to a confrontation and things moving quite quickly. Yeah, great, Chris. And we'll just see what's up with that. Is it an arm of a larger thing? Are they actually like a Team Rocket almost type organization?
Right.
I mean, who can really say? I will be excited. Maybe they can give us more information about the anomaly and the alien
Yeah.
artifact stuff.
Yeah.
Because Luke's not here, obviously, but he was very interested in all that stuff and was kind of upset that it had been left to the wayside up until last episode when we recorded. Naturally,
Yep.
the episode that it comes back,
He's
he's
not
not
on.
on the recording,
Yeah.
but it seems like the rest of the season it should have some type of role to play in at least one of the next 2 episodes.
Yeah. And something that they pretty much hammered home as well, which was alluded to throughout the season, was the company isn't most likely involved unless they just got paid to allow Gray Chris to be there, but not necessarily be a part of murder and and the destruction of a team, because that is totally against their business structure, because now they're going to have to pay out everything, and It's just not good for business. So we have some confirmation there. And I guess that's really it. I mean, Murderbot has his plan. He's obviously trying to protect them, but he's going to betray them, maybe.
Maybe he might.
He'll
I'm sorry, it
turn.
might.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah,
turn.
we'll see what
Oh yeah,
happens.
I said he. It might betray them. But that's the plan to start. The plan will evolve and we'll have a happy ending and we'll talk it out.
Yeah,
We'll
the
all talk
only
it out.
define yes, we can talk about this. That's perfect segue into the final comment that I had. The only thing that I think we maybe didn't cover was that fact that it seems like the threesome, the triumvirate agreement, I
Yeah.
forget the exact word they use, is potentially falling apart. And also it seems like it's straining Pin Lee and Arata's relationship potentially too. Because
Yeah.
Pin Lee was like, all right, dude, like I'm attractive. Like it's not crazy that Roddy would want to fucking bang me out. So I don't know why you're acting that way.
Yeah. I mean, Roddy comes in. Obviously, Pinley and Arata were like, we're going to have to end this. It's just not working out, this throuple. So they're thinking they have to come and talk to Roddy. Roddy walks in and he says, sorry, I can't do this. I actually love Pinley and not Arata. And Arata's like, whoa, hey, yo, whoa, what's going on here? And Pinley's like, whoa, what are you talking about? And that was where obviously the confusion was from the very beginning of this season, where who likes who and what did Murderbot say about the who's fond of who and this and that. But again, I'm not really positive on what this does for the story, except just adds more character information and more story arcs for the crew. I don't know what it really does otherwise.
Do you think one of the three of them will die this season?
I think somebody's got to die, to be
Yeah.
completely honest. I mean, I really do. And the other thing about Great Chris is they're a mining company, and for whatever is going on, they're going rogue enough where they're looking for this anomaly and they're killing people. How are they making these sec units go rogue as well? They're not going rogue. I guess their masters are Great Chris, but can you say, yo, sec unit, just start killing people? I thought they're more for protection. I don't really know exactly how that works. So are they jailbroken too? Or are they, I don't know. I feel like they're gonna
Yeah,
have
that's
to
a
give
good
us some
point.
more information on them. Yeah. I mean, they're not obvious. They obviously don't look like Murderbot, but we know that Murderbot is an old model, but still, the intro has all the black sec units and the cool black uniforms and everything. I don't know. I guess we'll get some more information on that, but it just seems to me that they do have to be more villainous and nefarious because it seems story wise it would be weird for you to be able to like buy sec units and just be like, hey, we're gonna start killing people and we're taking
Yes,
over, you know.
exactly. That seems crazy.
So
That
yeah.
it could any even if it was any Joe Schmo on the mining team could just be like, hey, sec unit, go kill
I don't like this guy.
boy
Go
RD
kill him.
over there. Yeah, he stole my
Yeah.
lunch. And then it's
Yeah.
all hell could break loose.
Yeah, exactly. And back to our conversation about who's going to die if we believe it. What do you think? Do you think someone's going to die?
I think someone will die. It's so hard to pick who. My heart
Yeah, I agree.
refuses to believe that Roddy could die.
I know, I know.
But and then because
I
you have to think about like what would be the real impact on the story. You know, like if Arata's gone, it's she liked Roddy, Pinley liked her, so it's kind of like Pinley's lost without the woman that she loves,
right.
and then maybe Roddy's there to console her, and then they spark a relationship. If Roddy dies, then like Arata's kind of maybe despondent, and then it impacts her relationship with Pinley. Maybe they break up or get a divorce rather. Pinley dies, and Roddy's distraught, and then Arata tries to take advantage. I don't want to say take advantage, but then slip in that way. I don't really know. Yeah, and you're right. So you
Yeah,
have to think
yeah.
about like what would actually be the impact on the story, and it's hard to pick
The
which one maybe makes
only
the most sense.
major loss emotionally for the viewer and for the crew, to me, for the crew, it's everyone. It's an emotional loss. But for the viewer, I feel like the biggest hit would be Mensa. But
Mm.
I don't
Okay, you're thinking
know.
whole crew, not just those
Oh, I'm
three.
thinking everybody. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah,
entire
yeah.
crew. Because I feel like BW is a good character to see one a member die and maybe Murderbot be trying to protect or something. I mean, we know that BW is very much so against any kind of any kind of murder, any kind of violence, etc. So there may be some major character development with the connection between Murderbot and BW if these characters continue, where maybe another one dies and Murderbot's, you know, trying to protect, and it's a whole scenario there. Um, Mensa would be the huge hit. I believe I can't see Gura dying. I really think Gura is an ongoing character. Gura's too good of a swinging on the fence here and there, good, bad,
Yeah,
a
need
foil for
need him
Murderbot. Yeah.
exactly, and need him.
Um, and then with the thruple, I feel like it's just like any of them. I mean, for me personally, I don't want Roddy to go just because Comedy Central there. I mean, I don't want to end the episode because I know we're about to end it soon without talking about the hilariousness of them talking about how they all were warriors and shit.
Yeah, so good that they gave us the actual scenes too.
Yeah,
The
Pinley.
VW Rostro is so good.
I forget what Pinley says, but Pinley's like, "Don't do this, or I'll f you up," and they're all like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." Like, oh man, I felt like a warrior out there. And and then Murderbot, it goes out to check the med bay and to check the hopper and everything, and or the where what is it called wherever
The
they were.
habitat.
Oh yes, yes, yes. The Murderbot goes out to check the habitat, and Murderbot's like, "All right, no one leave, no one do anything until I say it's safe, especially you." And Ronnie's like, "Whoa, hey, what did I do?"
Yeah, he's like actually upset, does not understand why he would say that.
Seki cracks me up. But yeah, I think this is a good episode. I think this really pushed us forward, gave us some answers towards where we're going with the rest of the season. 2 episodes left. We're going to say it probably multiple times, 2 more times at least, but it does seem like it's going to be a really good binge after the fact. And I will do a full binge on it because it's going to be quick. It's going to be a really nice, easy binge. Any
Yeah,
parting
no
shots
doubt.
before we? Okay.
No,
All right,
my
guys.
parting
Well,
shot was going to be talking about, I think, maybe who might die, and we had that entire conversation. So I'm feeling good. I think rolling into these last 2 episodes.
yeah. I mean, it would be wild if Mensa dies. I think that would be pretty wild. So I'm not going to go there. I don't want Mensa. I don't want Roddy. But I do think someone has to, just for the sake of story, for where it goes. And I did say before, and you said, there's got to be at least some of this crew has to overlap into the next season. So we'll see. Otherwise, guys, episode 8 in the books. We have 2 more episodes left. Luke will be back for episode 9 and episode 10. So don't worry. But like we said throughout this episode, please let us know if we got anything wrong, if there's anything you want to talk to us about. BingetownTV.com/Discord. Comment on the Spotify podcast. You could do it specifically right on the episode. You can comment now. We can comment right back. YouTube, hit us up on YouTube in the comments. We'll answer all of you guys. We appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're on the Reddit, we post on the Reddit as well. If you want to just comment there, that's great as well. Otherwise, Binge Empire podcast will be very soon, within the next week, covering Squid Game, and then July 11th, Dexter Resurrection will be starting. And then we have a lot coming there after Dexter Resurrection. We have Alien Earth, we have Wednesday, we have The Institute. MGM Plus is The Institute. So there is a lot going on over there. So please jump over there, hit that subscribe button. And Foundation on the Core podcast. That's the big one for us right now. Season 1 and Season 2 are being covered. Season 2 right now, we're about midway through, and we're having a blast. Me and Kyle have never watched it before. And finally, in a couple weeks, we'll be on the same playing field. Me, Kyle, and Luke. Clean slate. Luke will finally be able to give us his theories, his thoughts, because he has watched the show before. Season 3, we'll all be watching for the very first time, of course. So please hit that subscribe button on the Core podcast, covering all things Apple TV Plus. Otherwise, we will see you next week, and thank you so much for listening.